Trading Time with your host, John Rousseau.
My guest on Trading Time today is Nick Hill from Ritchie Custom Homes and Ethic Millwork. He is an outstanding builder of residential construction projects up and down the Okanagan. We share his building philosophy and work history, and really looking forward to the discussion today. Enjoy. Nick, thank you very much for joining us. We've known each other for some time. We've had a bit of a break in between our correspondence, but we've got kids that are the same age, going to the same school programs. We're running into each other more often. You are a real inspiration from a business perspective. You run arguably the most accomplished residential construction firm in the South Okanagan, maybe even the Okanagan. Your portfolio is extensive of just beautiful high-end construction. How come? What's the why?
What's the why? Yeah, great question. Thanks, John. I'm glad to be here chatting with you.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, well, I mean, I first have to say I've got wonderful clients and employees that do beautiful work, so pretty blessed that way. But yeah, the why. Getting into this industry way back in my 20s, right out of university, I just wanted to build homes better. That was like what I went after, and so I got right into something extreme called rammed earth construction, and that was pretty fun. Building forms, packing earth in it, a kind of a low cement mass wall system. And that was a really neat experience. And I just wanted to get out and build homes more efficient, healthier, greener. Yeah.
Most people, they might have seen rammed earth in a YouTube video or in a magazine. This is a very old building technique that you had a company producing some incredible structures up and down the Okanagan. I can remember doing a house with you where we built a bathroom, and the whole house, the whole lower floor of the house was all rammed earth. It was incredible. Such a boutique product.
Yeah, it's really
is anybody doing that locally still?
No, we're looking at doing it on a project, and we've got to bring somebody in from Souk, Vancouver Island.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful product. It's got its time and place. I kind of went into it thinking it was sort of broadly could solve a lot of problems, and it's a beautiful product. It's got its time and place, but it wasn't something that I saw was going to be prevalent. Everyone else who saw that it was a component in a home, and I quickly realized that a house is much more than just walls. It's a whole system, and so that kind of led, doing rammed earth led into getting to know Ted Ritchie, doing some of that work on his projects, and got to know him, and that one thing led to another to work with him and eventually take over his company.
We first ran into each other on a project, and it was the first project that I was on for Ritchie construction at the time. We were building a bunch of travertine bathrooms in a beautiful home on the West Bench here, and I think I was doing the backsplash or something, and that was the first time that we'd met, and you were taking over Ritchie Contracting. And give me a bit of a sense of how that was from a succession perspective. You coming in as somebody with the experience that you had in rammed earth into a very well-established business with a great reputation. What was the learning curve there? How did you assimilate?
Yeah, so the succession plan was really important, and it really relates to time. So I worked for Ted for 2 years and then took over ownership in 2010, and then he stayed on for 2 years. And so it just allowed us to work hand in hand together and really transfer over his knowledge over a 4-year period. And it was a great way to go. And anybody out there thinking of doing their succession planning or buying a business, especially when it's individuals involved as the key person in the business, it's a great way to look at. Just take your time if you can. Yeah.
Because I know that we've talked in previous conversations about how many businesses like this, are going to be going through a process like that in the coming years. Mm-hmm. And any words of advice to people that are potentially looking at taking over a well-established construction business? Take the time with the owner, see if you can get them to stay on a couple of years with you to show you the process.
It's about relationships, and you talk about the why at the beginning. What I've realized now is that success of business, especially small business in a small market like this, it is relationships. And so you got to be able to have a good, honest, trustworthy relationship to transfer over that knowledge, that wealth of knowledge, and then to carry it on and continue forth. So relationships are key.
Cool. You are involved in the building community. You've been a previous president of the Canadian Home Builders Association local chapter here. What's that like interfacing with that body of contractors, and what was your experience like there?
Yeah, it was great. I got involved pretty early on in my career. I look back and think it must have been crazy to do all that volunteering. I was just taking over this company. Yeah. But it's a community, and that was great. And the relationships built with the other builders to this day have lasting effects on our market. We're in contact. We share resources from time to time. We use a lot of the same trades. And so I think it's great that there's communication and relationships between the builders and the trades, and having an organization that kind of serves a higher purpose from which to do that is super valuable.
Nice. Are we keep hearing all the time in every form of media that you could consume that we are in a housing crisis in our country. Mm-hmm. And you started off by saying that you wanted to make homes better. And I wonder if it's possible to make more better homes. Do you see a way that we could potentially improve our supply? Have you thought about these things? Do you feel as though we are in a housing crisis here in the Okanagan? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, in the context of the South Okanagan market, which is what I know, and I honestly, I don't spend the time a whole lot in the greater market to really be able to say anything with truth. But in the South Okanagan, and especially in the custom home building industry, we're very much demand driven, and demand's been low for the last year for people starting houses. We have seen a bit of a dip, and that's not talking about production housing and that part of the market. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we are in a crisis in the context of this market. It's not feeling like we can't build the houses that are being asked to be built. Mm-hmm. It's a very low amount of spec sales this year. I think I heard there was maybe 4 or 5.
4 spec sales.
So I've heard. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
the whole year.
There's a demand supply to the whole process. And that's in the real estate agent. I don't know what specific area that's from, but yeah, could be Penticton, could be Summerland. And could more homes be built better? I think BC has a pretty progressive and good building code with the step code. I think we should be really proud of ourselves, and I think that we are building really good houses. There's no doubt about that.
What are some of the challenges that you've encountered with the introduction and ramping up of the step code?
Well, I started doing an obscure form of building, and when I started with Ted, he was an R2000 builder. We've been building step code 3-4 houses since day one. Yeah. So for my business, it hasn't even been noticeable. There's different regulatory changes, and there's more work on the front end and the planning, and so how we go about it's a bit different, but the actual what we're building as a house isn't really any different for me. But there's a greater market out there, and I think there has been some challenges, but the step code is a nice way to ease into it. I really think that was it's a good way to go.
I think one of the things that I've heard in talking to other people is that with these improved building envelopes and assemblies comes a need for more education and training of the trades. Being that you are such a well-established company in business, I'm sure that you have your pick of the cream of tradespeople and professionals to work with. Have you seen any challenges in getting that high-level skilled trade component in your business?
I haven't personally seen challenges. As you say, we have pretty long-standing relationships with our trades. And so from my experience, it's been pretty good. Yeah, no, I
That's
don't, but
amazing.
I hear of challenges out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have a finite amount of projects that we take on. We're very selective that way, and we have our trade network that we have long-standing relationships with. So as these new methodologies have come into place, it's been okay. Yeah.
That's great. That's great news. I wonder if we're doing enough for the education of these potential trades, people that are coming up. We've talked about this retirement factor already, about how Ted retired, and I think there was a statistic that I can remember reading years ago that the average age of a journeyman in the province was 51 years old. And I know that number's gone up. I know that it's probably more like 55 or who knows how high that number is now. Are you concerned about youth coming up in this industry and being excited to be in construction? Do you have any young?
Yeah, we've always had at least a couple apprentices.
Yeah.
And as they get their red seal and move up within the company, and some move on, some stay, but we always at least have one or two apprentices. And if I'm looking at the various trades on our sites, there's a pretty good range of age there and youth coming in, for sure. So the market seems stable right now, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
It is a bit slower right now, which has helped. It kind of got crazy there in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah.
And it's settled down now. And yeah.
Cool. So where do you see your company going in the future? What are some products and offerings that you want to be able to offer to your clients that would kind of even set you further apart than you are now? If you're comfortable in speaking to any of that.
Well, as I've probably spoken to customer service, the product we deliver is really what a client wants. And so I think the art is in truly discovering what's important to them, the values, their what for, like why are they building a house, and what's truly important to them in this project, and gearing towards that, not what I think they should do or someone else. And so we really focus on trying to understand that, and then providing the information and guidance for them to have a nice, fairly seamless process throughout, and ultimately getting what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And so we're continually honing our skills in doing that, but because we are pretty much a all custom home building company, so it's really tailoring to what each client wants. We've got a vast portfolio and a wide range of product, from really modern and high-end to traditional, to economical houses. People might not realize it, but we don't just build flashy high-end homes. We build all sorts of homes. It's really the client and what they want.
An economical home. What a concept.
Yeah, we did
a new economical home.
We did a spec house as an employee investment program. It was really cool. So I bought a piece of land, and the employees that wanted to invested in it, and we designed, built, and sold a house, and Amazing. Provided a great return for the employees. It was really cool.
Unbelievable.
And even though it was a lower price point than we normally build, it was still done beautifully and finished with the standard that we want.
So did the contributing employees to the actual fund itself, did they build the project as well, or
some did? Yeah, so they could contribute their time. It would equate to $1 volume of investment.
Yes.
So some took on different scopes of work.
Right.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that a model that you adopted and heard about from somewhere else, or is this something you guys cooked up?
Came up.
That's great. What a cool.
It was in a new development. It was the worst lot. It was like the cheapest, smallest. Most but we created a beautiful product in it, and it's one. And when I drive up in that subdivision, it's one of the nicest houses, I think.
Where is it?
In the Squaw Bluffs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
awesome. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was a neat process to go through. Yeah, I mean, the opportunity hasn't arisen again, but it might in the future. It might not. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I really love your Instagram feed. Who's ever running it is doing a great job of putting projects that you guys have done in the past, which I recognize, along with your new work. I'm seeing that you're doing a lot of work with a new architectural firm here in town, Sanders Green. Mm-hmm. At some of the houses that, that one that they posted recently, right on the edge of the clay bank, in Naramata, is spectacular.
Yeah, it's actually on rock, and so most of the house is anchored to rock, but then there's a CL, like a cross-laminated timber platform that projects out and is on 4 steel posts. So it looks like it's just sort of floating. Yeah, it's
spectacular.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
How many architects are you interfacing with on an annual basis?
Gosh, it's hard to say. We work with architects from the West Coast to the East Coast. Yeah, several usually, and but we also have an amazing in-house design team as well.
Really?
So every client, as I said, they come in and they have different values, different budgets, different products, what they want.
Yeah.
And so we just like to be diverse to be able to fit in what's going to work best for them.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
You just recently invested in some land. Mm-hmm. And you are thinking about and actively designing a place for you and your family.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you've ever done a build for yourself?
Yeah, I jokingly ask my clients if they have any advice on building a house. But it is, yeah. We renovated like a 100-year-old farmhouse. It was a really cool process. So this is something new, a little journey for our family. And, we like to go on journeys. We traveled around the world for a year in 2019. And so now this journey is going to be building on a piece of land that doesn't have a house on it. It's a nice raw forest. And it's really cool to go through the process myself in depth. And we're really taking the time to feel our way through it, as opposed to just trying to find a picture that invokes what we want. And how can we occupy that land in an intimate and relational way that we can create a house that's going to really hold our family, and even in the future when there's less kids around. That's ways away though.
Yeah. That is the challenge. You and I right now are in the, like Karen and I have this saying, like we're in the big house stage of life. Yeah. We need to have a house that's going to serve our family well. Sleepovers and dinner parties. And how do you envision creating that space for your family? How much time do you think it's going to take to pull it off?
Well, I mean, I don't know yet, John. Obviously there's factors that'll come into play: selling property, getting rental, building. We're trying not to rush it, and we don't want to force anything. We kind of want to let it happen. And so far it's flowing well. But the point, do you design a house to the family that you have now? What about in 15 years? If this is a forever place, which who knows if it will be or not.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
But what happens when kids move on, and if we build a house too big? And so we're taking that into account in the layout, and so that it can feel like a nice, cozy, smaller house when it's not fully occupied.
How long could you spend looking for a proper piece of land in this area that we live?
It took me 5 years. Takes a long time. It's not a lot. It feels like there's a lot of land, but there's really not.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we should break more land out federally for development? Do you think we should be developing here more?
Oh man, I don't know. Our forests are pretty beautiful. I'd hate to see more sprawl into the forest. But I think families want to be in a single family home. And right now those are in limited supply, and we're creating density, for the right reasons. But I think if you surveyed most families, where would they want to be? I would think they'd want to be in a single family home.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm at odds with that one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because this was all forest at one time.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think that we've done a really responsible job of developing it to the point that we have. But when I look around at some of the people that I know, like you've just pointed out, they'd rather be living in a scenario like what you've just described, building a new house in the forest, like what we've done. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of opportunity for that, for people to do that. And that's sort of part of one of the themes of what I'm trying to bring awareness to here is like, maybe we could be doing some more sustainable development in our region.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Eco Village in Summerland that's contentiously converting some beautiful forest and parkland into houses and multifamily, and so I think that looks like it's going forward. That'll cost more, but you have to look at the demand supply conditions that are happening. I mean, lots are not selling and houses aren't being built to sell because there's no market for them right now.
Yeah, it's
in the South Okanagan. Anyways.
Very delicate balance between the lending environment, the ability for people to buy, available land, trades availability, people willing to to build on spec. Like you're saying, 4 spec homes sold last year in our area. That's scary. Mm-hmm. That makes you not want to build anything on spec.
Yeah, it'd be pretty risky right now.
What else are you seeing you want to talk about?
I mean, I guess I could chat about like trades. I had a wonderful run-in with a carpenter who's not in the industry anymore. And I remember him being on some of our sites, and we had a great conversation at a coffee shop. And he just said how wonderful the trades is, in that it's a shame that there's not more exposure at a young age to the benefits of going into trades. There's still such a push to go into university. He went to university and then went to the trades. And when he went to the trades, he thought, man, I'm using my brain more. I'm applying myself. This is in some ways more challenging. And yeah, I think you touched on this earlier, is raising more awareness to the trades as a positive, good, viable career that's going to be in huge demand.
Yes. And huge demand as a result of our largest demographic of skilled workers retiring right now. Yeah, that's a major issue.
Yeah, and I think too, the environment on construction sites, at least I can speak to residential, not as much commercial, there's a shift in the energy in the environment, of the conditions on site, the safety. Yeah, I think it's a really great place to be and a great place to work. There's no doubt that there's stressful times, but there's challenges to it. You spoke about the technological changes coming into building. I think that's actually a good thing, that people can get challenged and they don't, they're going to have to adapt and apply themselves to doing things a bit differently and doing things better as the industry changes, and it's rapidly changing. I think it's just a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
absolutely. I had a guest on previously, and we were talking about the ability for local jurisdictions to adapt to that technological advancement in construction. And his point was, he doesn't feel that the building code can rapidly adapt to the technologies that they've, let's say, been using in Europe for decades already. Mm-hmm. How often do you guys utilize alternate solutions in your business to work around that challenge?
I guess we do off and on. Some of the envelopes we build are kind of complex, and we can get challenged by the building code sometimes and work around things. I think the building codes, it's improving the build industry, but it's really a bare minimum.
Yes. So
I feel like the industry can strive well above the building code, no problem. We don't have to aim to the lowest bar. And so if the building code can have a means of embracing new and better technologies that might not be referenced in the code, I think that's achievable. I don't see us getting too constrained specifically by the building code. All of our projects have all the professional engineers and architects usually anyways, so you can see in advance if we're going to have a challenge, and we face it. And we also develop great relationships with the building inspectors.
Yes.
And that's another thing, right? Like it's just another place where it doesn't need to be stressful or combative.
Yes.
Just do things right, do it with integrity, and just have honest conversations when you're up against something or you're not sure. As I always recommend to my office and staff, like, go talk to them, find out.
Yeah.
Can we do this, or what about this detail? And bring them in. And I think it's a great way to establish that conversation, that relationship.
So do you feel that anything could be done to improve the wait times with these authorities having jurisdiction when it comes to putting these buildings together and getting all the permitting together?
The wait times in the South Okanagan are pretty short.
Yeah.
We're talking usually 6 weeks, give or take a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Other jurisdictions are months, 6 months, 9 months.
Yeah, wow.
Crazy wait times. When we work with trades or architecture designers from Vancouver, they just cannot believe that we can get a permit in 6 weeks. Yeah. So, hats off to our jurisdictions. They do a good job, in my opinion, of turning these things around. There's certainly a little bit more work on the front end, preparing drawings, getting products spec'd, but ultimately that just makes a project easier to build. So why not get it more planned out and sorted on the front end? So yes. We actually, we like that.
I wonder, you mentioned having, you've on some of these applications, you've got an architect, an engineer for sure. Maybe you even have an envelope professional signing off on the assemblies. I wonder at what point as an industry do we say, listen, you've obviously done your homework here. You can build this here. Short of a couple hour planning review, here you have a signed, sealed document package. Here's your building permit. And I think that's really the problem that, as you're mentioning, in jurisdictions like Vancouver, where it is like a 6 month to 12 month wait time. Is there anything that we could do if we have those professional assurances in place to expedite that process? Do you think that would help?
I mean, as I said, we have it pretty good here. We have the Home Builders Association. We have a building advisory committee. It meets with all the local jurisdictions, I think every quarter. And we openly talk about the challenges coming up, how's things doing, and we have a great relationship, and they're very motivated to streamlining. Everything's done online now. You just upload everything.
Yeah, that's nice.
So it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, we got it pretty good.
I think we do.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't think there's a problem there, in my opinion. I mean, everyone has a different opinion on that. But
yeah. Just the amazing availability of these wicked products. It's just such a great time to be a builder. But we've also talked about the importance of not forgetting where the industry came from, and tradition and joinery and authentic materials. And do you see a renaissance in authenticity and traditional building techniques? Are you excited about that?
Yeah, in my project stream, I do. There's a range, but like a lot of our projects really look to keep the materials inherent to what they are. So if it's wood, it's wood. If it's concrete, it's concrete. And just keeping things simple in that way. I think there's something to be said that less is more. And so toning down the number of materials and components and crazy architecture and just simplifying everything. I would like to see that, and that is some of the philosophy that my family's taken into as we design our place. I think there's a really great building concept called a pretty good house. If anybody's listening, just Google it, check it out. There's a book you can buy, and it's called A Pretty Good House. And it's a series of, there's no formal certification, I don't think, maybe it's changed now. But it's essentially like a good integral design, a well-insulated house, thick insulation, but a simple design that's not too complex where the detailing gets hard. And it's got a series of these sort of like rules of thumb. Smaller's better. And it's just a cool concept that I've always really gravitated towards, and we try to, where we can and when we have influence, bring in some of these concepts that there's no super expensive registration fee to certify the home or anything like that. It's just a couple of good principles to follow to build a pretty good home.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, go check it out if anyone's listening.
And there was another book that you were telling me about, something about principles of design or
pattern language. Christopher Alexander. Yeah, that's great. It's a thick volume, and his other book, A Timeless Way of Building. He just goes into the patterns that through time keep showing up, that result in a space feeling right, feeling comfortable, feeling good. And I think anyone can agree, you can walk into a home and it not feel right, and you can walk into a home that's like, this feels comfortable, this feels right. And so you can pick a whole series of patterns, and I think any architect out there will know about it. It's a pretty common course curriculum, I think, and it's a beautiful text. You can even get it online, I think, for free.
For free.
Like there's like it's published online, and all the different patterns are hyperlinked. So yeah, there's like a pattern for a farmhouse kitchen, and what you need to put in to have the feel of an old house farmhouse kitchen.
No way.
Yeah, making it larger, having it big enough that it's almost a family room, and having windows on two sides, and then it links to a good kitchen layout, and so the working kitchen, and then that has a pattern, and on it goes. There's like 200 or 300 of them.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it's really neat.
It's amazing how long it has taken us to build up this tradition of building. And I wonder if we take it seriously enough. I see a lot of these houses that we've built are just that. They're just housing. Mm-hmm. They're not expressions. They're not well thought out, like you've discussed. A lot of these houses that we've built in this province, some of them just melt into the ground after not that many years, versus you take a look at the building traditions in Europe, and you got 500-year-old buildings, 600-year-old buildings.
Yeah.
I wonder if we have the ability to build 500-600-year-old buildings here and have them endure.
Well, that would be a sustainable house, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can. I think it takes having an open mind and questioning what you're doing and exploring it, and having the tenacity to kind of say, well, what are the other options? What could we do here? Why are we doing it this way? Is there a better way to do it? Right? Rather than just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Mm-hmm. It gets easy that way, but yeah.
Yeah, like that beautiful home that you did in Summerland with all that rammed earth in Trout Creek. Think of how long that's going to be there.
Yeah.
It's indestructible. Nothing's going to happen to that house in 1,000 years. Those walls, that thick. You keep the roof up to date on it. Mm-hmm. There's going to be somebody living in that building for a very long time, and you can't say that about most of the structures that we fabricate. And I think that we've perverted the industry to an extent. And I wonder if there's a way to kind of come back from that and actually put some true value and craftsmanship into these structures, and like a pride of ownership and construction.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you just got to slow down and take the time and detail it right, and question, and look for different ways to do it, and think of the long game with it, and how we're detailing it and how we're building it for the longevity. And that comes down to design. I mean, how many homes get torn down and renovated that aren't that old because they were just poorly designed?
Yeah.
And that's what the pretty good house speaks to. I mean, if you can have a well-designed home that's going to last and doesn't need to be renovated, that's better off for the planet, humanity, than something that's not designed with integrity and keeps getting renovated because it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a misallocation of material. You drive around and you look at how the land has been developed, and you're like, how could it possibly be that house is on that piece of beautiful land? Like, what was somebody thinking? And that was at a time when land was abundant. you know, and now it's at a major premium in our area and in our country, arguably. So being more intelligent with how we place buildings, how we site buildings, how we design them, critical. I'm excited about where we're going as an industry with the introduction to all of these different building sciences, and I wonder when we're going to start teaching them in school. You know, like think about how much time you spent in an earth science class or biology class or whatever. We don't have any building science classes in our schools. At what point do we start introducing courses like that, and do you see a value in that?
I think it would early, like, you know, grade 8, like start introducing them to different trades. And we had the high school shop class come through my cabinet company shop the other week, and that was really good. And we wrote up a little write-up on each station and each machine and what it's for, and showed them the process. And so it I think there's huge value in that. Yeah, expose them at a younger age.
Yeah.
But that just takes the school system and the industry to connect and to just do it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Nick, thank you very much for your time today and the overview of your business, your career, your philosophy. I think that there is an amazing opportunity in the situation that you've just described from a succession perspective to be able to buy a successful business and transform it the way that you've done. I think that there are more opportunities like that, and you've really proven that with your business.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think I totally agree. I think there's wonderful opportunity for people selling, people buying businesses,
yes,
people in the trades coming up to own a business one day. There's only going to be increasing demand for it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your contribution to the industry, Nick. You are really doing your part with your team, and keep it up, man. It's beautiful work.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Thank you.